Hey, everybody. It is Tom.
And Rob.
And hopefully you can hear us well. We're on our fancy new microphones again today. If you're hearing us okay, please let us know. If not, also let us know. If things sound weird or something like that, we need to get the mics closer or further. Just give us a heads up in the comments. As always, this is a live and interactive Q&A live from the Regal Robot Studio. So if you're seeing this on Facebook and it is Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, you then are very lucky and can jump in the comments and introduce yourself, say hello, and please ask us any questions you want. We have a whole list of questions that we got from our Facebook group. If you're watching this anywhere else and you're not in the Regal Robot Facebook group, shame on you, go do that now. It's the Regal Robot Fan and Collector Showcase on Facebook. There's almost 3,000 people, which means that very shortly, like probably in a matter of weeks, we're going to be doing our 3,000 member giveaway. It's going to be really cool. You will not want to miss out on that.
We got a bunch of people already in here. Alex
Cool.
is here. He says loud and clear. Ian.
Nice. Thank you, Alex.
Says, hey guys, congrats on a great
Ian.
response to Jar Jar. So thanks,
Thank you, Ian.
Nathan says, hell yes. Parminder says, good afternoon, Tom and Rob. So hey, Parminder.
Hi, Parminder.
And Tiki Man says, hello until I get called to sit. Because he did say he wouldn't be here. So
Oh, nice.
nice that you got
Well,
the
yeah,
sneak
glad
away.
you got here. He's always good. Indeed, the Jar Jar, went over great. The Legacy Edition, which was a limited edition of 75 pieces of that maquette that came with a one-of-a-kind sketch from Tony McVeigh, who sculpted the creature for the movie, sold out in about 4 hours. I think it was like 4.5 hours. So yeah, that was a great launch and really gratifying and cool to see. It's we had no idea going in what Jar Jar would do. It was it's one of the reasons that the signature edition is a timed edition. We do that with a lot of our Indiana Jones releases as well, because it's not as clear cut. The other maquettes, we have a better sense of where they kind of fall. The Return of the Jedi stuff, we kind of know what to expect, how many are going to sell. But this was new ground. This was the first prequel piece, the first Phantom Menace piece, and it had to be Jar Jar, didn't it? For us, it was important to do something that really exemplified what that time was, what those movies were, and just immediately told people what we were doing. If we had done some other background character or some alien or something like that, it might just get blended in with the mix. But it's like, if you do Jar Jar, like, people know that's Phantom Menace right there. Like, that is 1999 encapsulated in sculptural form. You want to zoom in on him?
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, the Legacy version sold out really quick. Under 5 hours. I think it was 4.5 hours. Those were all gone. The Signature Edition, however, is still available. So these each come with a plaque signed by Tony McVeigh, who sculpted this for the movie. Tony is a friend. Tony is an absolutely brilliant sculptor. This is a great example of Tony's work and style. You have a lot of realism and detail, everything from textures and scales and things like that, but the wrinkling and the natural look of just the folds and sort of the smile lines and stuff like that. You get this real feeling of weight, this real feeling of mass and skin and all of that stuff. It's something that's present on all of his work, whether it's a dinosaur or something for a movie or a dinosaur for a movie. It's something we absolutely love. Rob and I, at the archives when we're going through these things, can always sort of say like, oh, that's a Tony sculpt. And this was no different. When this came out, we turned it upside down to look at the name on the bottom, but we already knew before we even got there. So the crew have just started making these. They're in the mold and cast phase right now. The Signature Edition is available for only 1 week. It went up for sale on Tuesday. On next Tuesday, 5/28 at noon Eastern, we close off orders. Anybody who orders ahead of next Tuesday, noon Eastern, you will be able to reserve one. We will make one for you. Anybody who comes in after that, well, we're sorry, that's what a timed edition is. So hopefully anybody who hasn't already ordered one of these that has interest, don't wait too long. Go now. Go to the regalrobot.com site. Go to the Star Wars section. Follow that to the archive collection page, and there you go. And again, being archive collection, what does that mean for this? That means this is 3D scanned off of the original maquette that is in the Lucasfilm archives at Skywalker Ranch. And it's amazing to us that we ever even get to go there. It's amazing for us that we get to, examine these things up close. But to me, it's really special that we get to share that with people through these editions, that we get to, take that lineage, these artifacts, and give people what I'll, immodestly say are beautiful reproductions of them, and things that when you hold them in your hands feel like the way it feels to hold the real thing. I think I think that's the thing that we go for the most, and it's so great when we hit that. We had a great moment with this where we did all of our prototyping ahead of our last visit to the archives a few months ago. And when we were there, we got to pull this maquette out again and look at it fresh after having done this. And holding Tony's original that's in the archives at the ranch feels just like holding this. The Max, who did the paint mastering on this, did a really, really good job of nailing that. And we only identified one or two minor things when we saw it the second time, and we tweaked those ahead of the release. So it's great. This captures that feel.
Let me get to a few comments.
Yeah.
Brian says, "Hey, good day, Rob and Tom." So, hey,
good day,
Brian. Parminder has a good question.
Yeah.
Will all future signature editions be timed editions when there is also a legacy edition release, or is this just a one-off?
So this we did because the Phantom Menace is still a bit of an unknown to us. I would hesitate to commit to saying that all will be. I wouldn't rule out that there will be other timed editions in the future. Certainly our Indiana Jones stuff, there's going to be a lot of that. There's some pieces there, though, that are going to have set editions. And sometimes with the signature editions, it comes down to also being able to coordinate securing the signatures and stuff like that. So, I would never say always on that. But I would say that timed editions are a thing that we are going to do from time to time in the future. And if folks like it, keep letting us know.
I have a bunch of questions that we had posted online. PJ is asking, can we get a Yaddle?
PJ, we talked about this. If anybody saw, PJ is the host of Sithcast, which I got to be on last week. I think that was on Monday of this week, actually, the 20th. If you look them up, they're on YouTube. Look up Sithcast, and if you have interest in hearing us talk extensively about Yaddle for about a half hour, that's in there. We talked about a lot of other stuff, though. It was a fun chat. I don't think there's actually a Yaddle maquette.
I don't think
I think that was kind of must have been developed sort of after they made the Yoda molds and stuff. So probably not. But I mean, I know we know Yaddle has a following.
Never say never. Well, Tony says, nice to see Bib looking amazing. I feel I've seen that hairline before. So why don't you bring Bib into the mix?
Sure. So I'll just shift Jar Jar off to the side here. Bib is our next archive collection maquette that comes out in June. We've been saying June 18th. We've actually settled on June 25th for that, giving a little more time. Bib is, I know last time we mentioned that Bib was going to be a legacy edition as well. And I pulled out just a handful of Phil's drawings. I'm sure you can get in close on these as needed.
And this is for you, Ian.
Phil did pencil drawings this time, which are all really cool. There's some nice variety. And if you want to, I don't know how well we can.
Hold them up would be easier.
Yeah.
Straight up,
I don't know if I
think so.
Is that?
Yeah. Pretty good.
So these, I'll keep my hands out of the way. I'll let you do your thing there. So this is just a sample. Every one of them is unique. Even where you have similar sort of things, every one of them's hand-drawn. Everyone is unique. Everyone's an individual. Phil worked with us on the very first of these legacy editions, and it's really, really great to have him back doing this. He's already done all the sketches for Bib. There will be 83 pieces in the legacy edition for the Bib Fortuna. And then the signature edition for him is going to be 100 pieces. So, even when we have things like this where there are multiple editions, these are still really low numbers when it comes to licensed stuff, obviously. The rarity and exclusivity on these pieces is something that I think remains important to us. And even as we're inching up on some of our edition sizes, or where we're doing, a lot of things where we'll do either a numbered and a signature or a legacy and a signature or something like that, we are still very mindful of keeping those overall edition sizes really tight and rare. And Bib has been in the works for a long time here. Anybody who was at Star Wars Celebration it wasn't Chicago, it was Anaheim.
Yeah.
So it's about 2 years ago now. We did show a sample of Bib. Was Bib painted?
I don't remember if
Yeah. I know Weequay was unpainted.
Yeah, I think he was painted.
He might have been painted.
Yeah, I think he was.
I mean, he was very far along at the beginning of this. And then when Max got shifted to be first, that wound up bumping Bib, because now Bib couldn't be second, because then it would be 2 fills in a row. So then it was going to be Max, then Weequay, then Bib, and then we just started bringing other people in from that Return of the Jedi crew. And it was just really important for us to get, one of each out there first. And we've now gotten to represent, Phil and Dave Carson and Ken Ralston and Judy Elkins and Jeannie Lauren, Tony McVeigh, who was on Jedi as well, although he hasn't been in these particular maquettes. Am I missing anyone? Oh, Tom Sanamond with Pruneface. So, I mean, we brought so many of these men and women that worked on that scene into the mix, and that's been a really cool part of this. And if you like hearing their stories, go look up the @RegalRobot account on YouTube, and there's a little section there now, one of these playlists, that has just all of our interviews with those people, where they get to tell you all about what it was like to work on Return of the Jedi, and a lot of stuff that you're not going to hear anywhere else.
Well, Jason has my sense of humor, because he says Bumping Bid is one of his favorite 90s bands. How many times do I say that stupid joke?
Quite a lot, yeah.
Everyone is saying Bib was definitely painted in Anaheim. So.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Well, and what's nice is Bib has a very complex paint job. It doesn't look like much, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of layers just on his shirt. And then he's got all these stripes and things. It's given us a lot of time to perfect the paint job and to produce a lot of these. So when these go up for sale, we'll actually have a good number of them ready to ship. They're actually all cast at this point, and most of them have some level of paint on them, and there's a whole bunch that are done already. So it will be nice in that regard, where we have Jar Jar that they're just getting started on the process. Ones like Bib and even Reese, are ones where we are far enough ahead that as the orders come in, they can go right out as long as people are paying in full. And the numbered edition Reese, there's still some left. I don't know the numbers offhand. That's something we probably should have looked at before we went live. But if you did not pick up the signature edition, the numbered edition is still available. There's a good handful left, and you can go on regalrobot.com and pick that up. We got, I know, a lot of questions.
Yeah, so these are just ones that are coming in live. Ian says, I'm always so impressed with Phil's sketches. Assuming he's not watching Jedi every day, he has an incredible memory for those scenes.
So, yeah, it's funny. With the Rancor, Phil really just went at it on his own. And what we've been doing on some of the later ones is we'll send some printed reference photos from the movies to help refresh their memory, because this is a long time ago for these folks. But Phil definitely has great recall, especially for the scene overall. When he did the Rancor, there's a lot of stuff. Somebody said it looked like he was storyboarding the scene. And so, that was 100% just pure fill.
Tony's asking, do we have a cost yet for bib?
I don't know offhand. My guess is it's probably $3.99 and $6.99, the same way the Jar Jar and the Klaatu were before it. I don't see much of a reason that he wouldn't be. Klaatu is a lot of paint as well, and they're probably in that same ballpark. And that's most of the maquettes these days wind up in that range. If they're, maybe you get some that are a little more, maybe you get some that are a little less, like Droopy McCool, which, there's still some of the Jeannie Lauren signature edition of Droopy out there. That's, he was only $2.99 because he's a much simpler paint job and he's a little bit smaller. But I believe $3.99 is the signature for bib, and then $6.99 for the legacy.
I think we can answer this one. Brian says, is the Lucasfilm Archives a warehouse like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark? If you're under an NDA, I understand. Just wink 2 times. Oh, that's blinking.
Oh, no.
Tom can't wink.
Well, hold on. If I blink once, is that the equivalent of 2 winks?
Totally. Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Independent blinks.
It's not quite that, but a little bit. I mean, people make that joke a lot that have been there, that it is sort of... It's not massive in the way that warehouse is, but it is expansive and it is extensive. And it is always surprising what you find there.
We have a bunch that were asked earlier. So
yeah.
We have a lot of prequel maquette questions.
Okay.
So Tony's asking about the prequels, how they look super detailed and refined compared to the ones that we see in Jedi. Like, what's the difference between that?
So yeah, the Return of the Jedi maquettes have a great energy to them. They are, in general, a bit looser, a bit rougher. I think there's a couple things at play. During Jedi, they were working fast. A lot of times they were working at night after working, 16-hour days, shooting all day on Dragon Slayer or on Raiders of the Lost Ark, doing effects work. And then at night they're, quickly sculpting together a bunch of stuff for their deadlines on Jedi. I think the artists in general, though, worked a bit looser back then, especially for concepts. They didn't dial in as tight. I think by the time, the prequels come up, there was an extended period for the art department to work and do all this concept work. You also had different types of artists working on this stuff. Whereas Tony McVeigh worked on, creating stuff for Return of the Jedi, he wasn't really heavily involved in the maquette phase. So, but Tony's style is much tighter than someone like Phil Tippett or Dave Carson. Certainly in the, Chris Wayless, I forgot his name when we were listing all the people.
Yep.
You look at something like Chris's Rees sculpt here, it is a pretty tight sculpt. It's got a lot of detail on it. And if it were in a vacuum, you'd be like, yeah, that's that's as tight as you're ever going to get for a creature. And then you see what Tony did with this, and it's just such a different level. I think a lot of that is Tony had the luxury of being able to take the time to put all that into it. And some aspect of it is just Tony is Tony. But hopefully that answers what you were looking for.
We just had a question here. Will Regal Robot be at Star Wars Celebration Japan?
Unfortunately, no. That's a bit of a long haul for us. There's also some licensing limitations. There may be some way that you see something of ours at the show. We'll see how that goes. But for right now, we unfortunately, as a company, are not going to be representing. We won't have a booth or anything like that.
This is I'll combine 2 people's questions. John's asking, will there be more prequel maquettes? And Ronald is saying, Watto is amazing. Any chance?
So Watto is amazing.
Yeah.
Watto is also massive.
There's a small
huge...
one. The one with the hat is a smaller one.
Is that one smaller?
Yeah, it's a lot smaller.
There's another thing too, because those are artifacts that we're replicating, we do have the ability to scale things. I don't know, there's a question of what people want in this kind of stuff. But the, Jar Jar went really well. And knowing that tells us that, okay, maybe there's, more people that want more prequel things. And if you do want that kind of thing, that's the exact thing that we made that Facebook group for. Go in there and talk about this stuff. Go through the making ofs and post pictures of the ones you like and talk about the different things and give us a sense of direction on this stuff. We can go in and pick our favorites, and generally, look, when Rob and I pick something for us to make, it's because we want it. It's the one and only reason.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, there's so many times where we're working on these things, and it's just a question of like, well, I want to have that on the shelf with mine.
But sometimes we go to the archives and we didn't realize we wanted something until you actually have it in your hands.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
And that is something that's really true. We're making what we want. But to know you want it, you have to have either seen it in a book or grown up with it in a making of.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes for us, it's seeing it at the archives, holding it in your hands, and just realizing that, sometimes it's the heft and the mass of a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Something like, I always wanted to do the Tusken Raider life size, but seeing those masks in person, it's like, 100% we're doing
Mm-hmm.
this, the Return of the Jedi prop that we have in works.
I had that exact feeling.
That came out 100% from seeing it in person, and it wasn't even on our radar, I don't think, prior.
We were like, we're here, we should scan it while we're here.
Yeah. Like, I think we had put it on a list because we had seen it on a shelf or something.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until we had it in our hands and we were messing with it that we're like, oh, we have to make this. So anyway.
Let me get there's a few more actually coming in live. Ian saying, will we see any Jedi maquettes this year from a new ILM legend, Kirk Thatcher and the Apple Slug, perhaps? We do love that one.
We love that one, and we love Kirk.
Yeah.
I actually did a chat with Kirk the other night. That'll eventually make its way out onto our YouTube and stuff too. But I adore him. He has so much energy and so fun. I would love to put. Apple Slug is a great choice from Kirk's. He had a few of them. He had the hole in the head guy. He had the sort of hot tub alien, and then Apple Slug. Where that fits in, probably not this year, but it's one we would love to do. There's a few complications with production on him that need to be worked out as well, but that's for a lot of these. It's always easy to look at them and go like, oh, we got to do that one, and then when you start making it, you realize these. It's always some little thing that holds you up. But yeah, it's not on the schedule yet. We would love to do it.
Tiki Man says, I think for the prequels you have the maquettes in larger set reference size pieces. Is that correct?
There are definitely a bunch of like set models. Yeah, like architectural type models.
And they're good.
They are. They're really cool. And then in terms of the maquettes, there are a lot of prequel maquettes. And I think I recently did a count. There's actually, if you're just going with sort of Return of the Jedi and Empire era maquettes, I did a count the other day. It was over 100. It was like 110 or 117 or something like that. Like, there's a lot to choose from in this stuff. And at the archives, there's a handful of those that are lost to time. Some of them that are just gone, some of them that probably weren't made to last, with just water, clay, and rotted, crumbled away or something like that. But the vast majority of them still exist and are at the archives. And on this last trip, we rediscovered one that they had not identified. It was not with the Star Wars stuff. It was actually specifically labeled as not Star Wars. And in going through other reference material, we actually found pictures of it in with the other Star Wars stuff, and in talking to, Phil and Dave and Chris and Ken and all of these guys, Joe Johnston as well. They were all like, immediately recognized it as one of Phil's, and we were able to kind of nail down what it was. It's a really cool piece. Really cool. Because it's so rarely seen, I don't know how quickly it's anything that we would do, but it's awesome. And, these are the sort of things that we live for when we have those kind of moments.
Parmender's asking, will access to the original assets become more challenging, assuming they will move to the Lucasfilm Museum?
Possibly. That's unfortunately not something we know. But it is part of the reason that we have been so aggressive about getting access while we know the process. And I, just to say out loud, the folks that are, there at the ranch are so good to us. And, I've been lucky to know them for well over a decade and have worked with them on conservation as well as this sort of stuff, and as well as even just like going to visit at the original times. But, we are really, really lucky, and they treat us so well, and they're, so gracious and accommodating for the research we want to do. And we are working ahead. We are not going and just, okay, we know we're doing this, so we'll just do that. We're trying to think 5, 10, 15 pieces ahead so that we're staying ahead of this, and so that if the access does change, that we're in a good place.
Clint is saying he would love to see Gamorrean soon. I'm assuming he means a maquette.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, Farino, he's on the Watto train too. He goes, I hope a Watto maquette will be coming one day. I do like that small one though, with a little rice hat. It's cool. It's a good one. These are some of the early ones. Omar is saying, any chance we could expect a Crystal Skull replica? That's tough.
It's tough. There's a number of reasons from a production point of view.
And also the Disney one's pretty good.
Yeah, so Disney Parks did one. It's a tiny bit undersized, and, there's some punch-ups you could do with some of the distressing / paint, but boy, for what it is, it's darn good. And the price is insanely low for what you get there. So it's not something we're actively pursuing, and honestly, that's a big part of why not just now.
I'm going to combine these two questions. Stephen is saying, are there any life-size busts in the work this year? I'm sure most of us would love to see any Cantina aliens. And also, Christopher is saying, could we say what the next droid bust release will be?
Yes to the first question, no to the second question. He's like, so you're saying there's a droid?
Exactly.
Yeah, we definitely have a number of life-sized busts in the works, as well as some other prop replica pieces and some stuff that's sort of hard to categorize. Things that come up like that Wampa puppet that is, it's a prop replica, it's a bust, but it's a puppet replica, so it's kind of a hard thing to put in place. By the way, though, I should give an update on production for the Wampas. So if I'm not mistaken, Wampas are very close to being fully fulfilled for all paid in full orders and for our retailer orders. And so that would mean if you're on a payment plan for a Wampa and you want to pay ahead early, you can go to partially, it's like partial.ly, and you can pay off your plan early, and it will get in one of the earliest future waves. They're moving out a handful a week at this point. And if you haven't picked up a Wampa yet and you want to pay in full, you can go to the website and order the signature version. I think there's still some left. And if you order it and pay in full, it will go out in a relatively soon wave. They're not going to be a really long wait at this point. Shankara stones,
now, I was going to say,
similar situation. So we posted a thing in the Facebook group just today. They were this morning. They had boxes loading up full of stones. So all of the paid in full orders and all of the retailer orders have now been packed up. If you have a paid in full order, you should probably have an email with a shipping notice at this point. These have been going for several months now. Like all of our editions, these are not mass produced overseas somewhere. We don't get pallets of these things in and then ship them right out. We make them as we go. And so those are being made in small batches, 30 or 35 at a time. So if you have a payment plan going for the Shankara stones and you want to pay that off early, you will get in one of the next waves, probably in the next few weeks, and ship right out. And if you missed out on the Shankara stones, we do have a wait list up for both editions. That's the deluxe deluxe set of 3 and the single alternate stone, which is the specific stone that Indy hands the old man at the end of the movie. And this would be the time to hit that wait list button. And if you just go to the Indiana Jones section of the site, scroll down, find those two, the two editions of the stones, click through, and there'll be a big green waitlist button, and it sends us an email and says you're interested. Katie will be going through those waitlists in the next week or so and start sending out links for any that become available. So if you haven't yet picked up your stones, this is kind of your last possible chance to do it. And if you do get on the wait list, it's not guaranteed you're going to get one, but you're definitely not getting one if you're not on the wait list. So,
your mom says hi.
Oh boy, hi mom.
Chazen is saying Wampa screen size bust updates. Any news to share?
Still in the works. We tried to give people a little bit of a breather over the last month or so. We've also tried to give our people a little bit of a breather. The Wampa screen size bust still due out right now. It looks like July. It is currently prototyped. The I think it's the horns, tongue, teeth, and such are all already molded. I believe the body of it still needs to be molded, but once that is done, we'll be proceeding on our samples, and we'll see where that goes. July is very quickly coming up, so we'll see where that fits in.
Chazen is also asking, how many more life-size screen-size items besides the upcoming Wampa wall bust can we expect this year?
He's asked too many questions. That's I don't know. I mean, there is a possibility that there's another life-size piece before the end of the year, be that like a bust or something along those lines. There are definitely more maquettes that will be in the works this year. We have the Return of the Jedi prop replica that will be coming out likely in June. We're in the very tail end of that process right now of getting our approvals and things like that. I think that's as far as I can kind of go with that, though. I think so. It's funny. We operate pretty far in the future, but what did you have to say? Always in motion is the future. We have a lot planned, but things sort of move around a lot once you get past about 3 months out for us. And I think a big part of that is because of how we make these things. That it's not that we're just saying, oh, we'll do that next, send it to the factory, and 6 months later we get a pallet full of these things. If we're going to do something, we have to know how we're going to make it here. We have to know we have the time in our schedule to do it. We have to know we've finished any of our other work that needs to be done. We don't want to put our people in the place where they're just getting piles of castings on top of themselves and here, finish these Wampas, and like, I'm still on the old Wampa.
Tony's saying, is there an end plan at all for the maquettes in terms of a number, or are you just going to keep going?
There's not a specific number we're going to make. No. I think
as long as you guys want them, we're going to make them.
Yeah, and I think we'll go as deep into that line as we possibly can. And, we've already talked a little bit about some of the rarer ones that maybe didn't get actually produced for the film and whether we would, do any of those. Like, I think all of that is on the table. And what might just happen is some of them might be bigger editions and some of them might be smaller editions. I think it's safe to say that there's a market out there for any of those maquettes, but I do think that when you start getting into the real weird ones that never got made in the movie, that is a much smaller group than the
going off of that
name pieces.
Ian says we want them all, including the unused concepts, but
and especially a man.
Yeah. Arminda is asking, is there a licensing challenge for the unnamed creature that never made it on screen versus those we know and love from the Kenner line? So this is about the hidden fill concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. So far, no, but that's a good question. Our license sort of fits in the artifacts of production kind of area, and concept art is still art for the movie. Nobody would look at Ralph McQuarrie concept paintings that maybe have a different creature in it than was actually in the cantina and say, well, that's not Star Wars. So I think it falls in that same sort of space. And luckily, our partners at Lucasfilm, feel similarly. I think I can say that safely.
Yeah. Chris is saying, would your license allow you to make a full-size indie bus for people to hang their hats on?
So technically, I do believe that is within the license. Harrison Ford is a notoriously challenging likeness. I don't know that that's something we would ever really do. But, you know, if it's something, and the other thing is also what the cost of that would be. And I don't know that if it was something for people to put their hats on, you wouldn't want to go realistic anyway. You would want like a bronze bust or a plaster look or something like that. You know, something a little more impressionistic maybe.
Tony saying, any hints on the ROTJ prop? And price point too.
So price point right now is looking like under $1,500. I believe we're actually aiming for $1,399. That might be all we can give you on it right now. I think we've got enough that we're kind of showing that we don't want to.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good one.
Yeah, it is going to be good, and it's going to be something relatively unexpected.
Yeah,
I think.
Definitely a different thing. A few more that were asked earlier. Any new licenses on the horizon?
Not at this time.
Can you please release Akbar and Snoodles after Celebration Japan, so I don't have to give you every dime until then? Well, we can say that those will probably be at the Celebration. Well, that's April, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're both on our list of ones that are, you know, like high on our list of ones we want to do. That said, I mean, I can look on that wall and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's like 6 or 7 other ones that are already kind of in the mix as well. So, but yeah, they're up there.
Yeah, Joe was actually asking for Snoodles as well earlier.
Yeah, she's tricky. She's got a lot of reasons why we're holding off on her, and you know, there are a lot of things we didn't do out of the gate when when we started dipping our toes into collectibles and things like that, because they were like, oh, you know, we got to figure that out. Because for us, it's about how are we going to deliver this that's up to our standard, not even just the customer standard. And I think the hollow chest figures are a really great example of that. You know, that was something I wanted to do really early on with what we were doing, and it took us working together with some of our partners that do mold and cast, and working with the team in here and figuring out how to literally just how do you do some of these that would be traditionally impossible to make. And it sounds maybe a little lofty to say that, but there are pieces in that hollow chest set that for anybody that does traditional mold and cast, it's going to make you scratch your head. So any of these ones like Snooty, where there's things in her that we look at and we go, we don't know how to do that yet. Yeah. The key word there is yet, not the first half of that sentence.
CC gets it. She wrote, more licenses, my God. These ones keep you plenty busy.
Boy, do they. Yeah. That's for sure.
Alex Arnold, in reference to that indie bus, he said, take my money. You don't say.
Did he also say, whoa?
He did. Yeah.
Where's my Ric Flair figure?
Brian saying, is the staff of Robb medallion in the concept room?
In the concept,
is it in the works?
I mean, it's something we love. Disney Parks did a version of it, but there are 2 different versions in the movie, and I happen to like the other version better, the Marion one. Mm-hmm. So who knows?
All right, going back to Indy, are there plans for more Indiana Jones Archive series props? I especially love that you guys are making ones that haven't been widely available to collectors before.
Thank you. That is intentional. Yes. And our next piece for Indy
fits right into that.
It really does. And I do believe that's next. We have 2 that are still neck and neck. But if the one that Rob and I are both talking about makes it to be next, that will be one that everybody goes, oh, I never even thought about that. Yeah. And it was one that we went in intentionally to research with the idea that it could be something would release, and after seeing it in person was like, oh, this has to get on the schedule right away. Like, this is really, really cool.
Lucas is saying, any chance we can get more Tauntaun maquettes? Seems like there's a couple more different ones from what we've had. And he says he's selfishly wanting one because he missed the first 2.
Sorry to hear that. So there's at least one other Tauntaun maquette. There's 2. So there's one that's kind of like slothy and kind of slinky looking, like but unfortunately that maquette is lost. There is one other Tauntaun that is close to how it looked in the final, maybe a little thinner, that was a Phil Tippett sculpt, and that is still in the archives. It's got a little bit of damage to it, but that's the sort of stuff that we could digitally restore after a scan. And we have seen it, we have researched it, we have, it's in our wheelhouse. Is it something we're going to do right away? Probably not. Is it possible? Yeah. And what's nice is it's a different scale than this one. I would say he's maybe 3 or 4 inches shorter, but it's still a really neat piece. And it's funny, until you said that, we actually, hadn't been thinking about that all that much. But it is interesting to see that Tauntaun come around. That was something that, we put out. It was a big edition, 250 pieces. It took a long time to sell through, which was intentional. We wanted to have these things for a while so that people could go to our website and actually buy something, which is always nice. But now that it's sold out, it felt like it took, 3 years, whatever it was. It felt like it would just always be there. And now that it's sold out, I think a lot of people are now hunting for that one. And it does seem to, when it comes up, it tends to go for a lot of money. And it's kind of interesting to us to look back on that, because it was a piece that I think even we just kind of thought, oh, well, we'll always have the Tauntaun.
Right.
And then, even with an edition of 250, it's, now it's gone.
Tony says he keeps asking, but he thinks the Ewok and glider would be amazing. It's a cool piece.
It is a cool piece.
Complicated piece, but cool piece.
Complicated, yes.
All right, this one, I'm going to reword this one a little bit for you.
Okay.
Is there something, Tom, that you would like to be made that we haven't made yet?
Oh. Is it cheating to look at the board? Yeah, I mean...
and the Wampa Puppet was probably one of your
The Wampa
ones.
Puppet was one of my top things. It was one of the #1 things I wanted to see when we went to the archives the first time. When I first visited there, this is well over a decade ago, that was in the top 2 things that I wanted to see there. So that was a dream piece for me. I mean, that checks a lot of boxes on my part. There are a couple of maquettes that I absolutely love and would love to see. I think, I mean, I would have to say a life-size Cantina bust is something that is high on my list that we have not yet done. And that's only because that's always been my favorite scene. It's a thing we've recreated as with my other company, with Tom Spina Designs, for commercials and videos and for Lucasfilm, and we've had our Cantina aliens now in The Mandalorian and in Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan and stuff like that. So for us, those Cantina creatures have always been around. It's kind of weird that we haven't done a Cantina creature for a life-size bust yet. So yeah, if you got to say, now if only I knew someone that had a say in what we did around here, maybe I could get one of them made.
Ian said it would be awesome for you guys to release anything that has the Jedi Creature Crew logo on it. You name it, a shirt, wall art, that would be awesome.
That would be a little tricky because that gets into a different license when you're talking wearables and stuff. But wall art, I mean, maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Industrial Light and Monsters logo is pretty cool. There's a few different Creature Crew kind of things that could be done.
Patrick says Bib is looking good.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick. Steven Uceda popped in and says, hey, Tom and Rob. So, hey, Steven.
Tighten these guys up.
This is, I think, the last one I have of the asked questions that were asked earlier. I know you won't tell us, but do you have any idea on what the next Phantom Menace maquette will be if the Jar Jar run is successful?
We don't.
No.
Yeah, and we have a few ideas.
Yeah.
Jar Jar, I would say, has been successful. We'll see what the signature edition looks like when this closes out. And once again, you have 1 week to order these. So that was 1 week from Tuesday. So that means by next Tuesday, 5/28 noon Eastern, if you want one of this guy, you've got to get your orders in. So go to regalrobot.com right now and go do that. Did we have a question? Because I have printouts here now. Mm-hmm. What was that question?
Oh, yeah. Let me.
Because this was, so somebody asked a question on the Facebook group, and I went back and actually looked at
so Craig
some papers.
Says, did you always intend to do the concept maquette line when you got the Star Wars license, or was it a light bulb moment on one of your trips to the archive?
So, kind of 2-part question. One, always loved them ever since from Star Wars Jedi came out, and I saw that panning shot where they showed just all these different creatures. Also, the too human, too snail-like bit with Mark Hamill, and seeing those weird Jabba the Hutt variations that never got made. I was hooked from the start. So what I have in front of me, in 2018, we announced that we were starting to do collectibles. We had been a licensee since 2016. We went live 2017 early. And then we were doing decor and furniture and wall art and things like that. And then by 2019, we had added collectibles to our thing. So we were asked to do some slides. And since we only had a few things in development at that point, it was like the Chewbacca bust and I think the Tauntaun. This was from Comic-Con 2018. I put together some, like a mood board, like these are like just some inspiration photos of things that we thought might be cool. So this was the one I put together for the fact that we had life-size busts and characters. And, so you're looking at things like CZ3 and Tusken Raider, both of which we wound up doing as life-size busts. Chewbacca life-size figure, we wound up doing that. Tauntaun, we've now got the life-size bust of that. And lots of other fun stuff on here that was just in there because they were favorites of mine. We did a life-size Muff Tack too, didn't we? But what we do, it's not like a menu necessarily, but it was neat to have a thing. But then I found the next slide that I had some maquettes and set dressing and puppets. So there's our Wampa puppet. So glad we finally got to do that. Weequay maquette, we did him. Bib Fortuna maquette, we did him. The final Jabba, we did him. So this almost became like a bingo card. I think if we could just do a Gamorrean bust, the Ralph McQuarrie looking Jabba that Chris Walas did, and maybe I always love these guys. There's there's not a lot left on the checklist on this one, but yeah. So from the very beginning, when they gave us collectibles, it was super important to me that become a part of what we were going to do. I felt like it was the most unique area, and such an important thing. Look, it's always an important thing in business to try and find stuff that other people aren't doing and do it. And in licensing, especially so. It was one of the whole things that happened when I went to Disney originally for the license with the decor and things like that. It was like, hey, we have ideas for things that your licensees aren't doing. And, luckily we were able to secure the license to do it. And now we've been able to bring all these things to people's homes. And I'm just glad that people came along for the ride on the maquettes. I think that's something that has always been special to me. It definitely has been a part of the plan from the beginning. How quickly it expanded and how much we're doing with it, and bringing in the artists more and doing the sketches and the signature edition, that definitely evolved. But the idea of incorporating these beautiful little maquettes into what we were doing, yep, from the beginning, all part of the plan.
Few people are shouting out some things for the one-to-one bus. We have a Hammerhead, we have a Wolfman, we have a RA7, and
love him.
Cece has a pretty good question, I think. Would wall art ever apply to matte paintings? If those are in the archives, a stretch maybe with the license, but that's art I've always wanted, obviously scaled down.
Love that. Love that. Definitely just safe to say something we have talked about extensively.
Yeah, we're on board with you, Cece, on that one.
Yeah, cool idea.
I think I am caught up.
All righty. Well, another one in the books. Thank you, everybody who joined us live today. Thank you for all the questions, all the interaction. We absolutely love it. If you happen to be watching this after the fact on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, be sure to follow us. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to hit like and tell your friends. Share what we're doing with everybody else. It means so much to us when people share what we do. We love seeing customer photos. If you collect our stuff, please share pictures of it. We love seeing that stuff. Go to the Regal Robot Fan and Collector Facebook group and become a part of the fun there. Join the family and hang out and talk with all the fellow Regal collectors.
Just give them a quick rundown, on how you get Jar Jar and when the last time to buy him is.
Here's how you get him. Tony McVeigh, Signature Edition. Tony sculpted this for The Phantom Menace, 1999. 25 years ago, that movie came out, and in celebration of that, we have this beautiful maquette. It is only available until Tuesday, May 28th, 12 noon Eastern. Anybody who orders before that time, you have reserved yours. We will make you one. Everything is made in the USA, hand painted by the artists here in our studio. Tons of work goes into each one of these, and we just can't wait to get them into people's hands, into their collections, and to expand all that we've been doing now from Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope to bring in a little bit of now the prequels and George's, second run at Star Wars there, starting in 1999. Who knows what the future holds? But I do know that next Tuesday holds the last chance that you can get this. So before 12 noon, please go get yours. Thank you so much for watching. These are always a lot of fun. We love having you here. We love the questions. And we will see you all soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.